Hello, amazing parents and caretakers, and welcome to the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. I'm your family empowerment coach, Celia Kibler. I'm a mom of a blended family of 5 kids. I'm a grandma of 9 kids, an author, a teacher, a speaker, and a consultant with over 40 years of training and real-life parenting experience. I'm here to offer you practical, doable tips, strategies, and techniques that will pump up your parenting skills and create peace, love, and laughter throughout your family. In addition, I'll be interviewing some great humans that are on a mission to make your life a better, happier, and healthier life. So let's not waste any time and get started with the next episode of the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. Thanks for listening. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. We're talking money today. And why do I love this topic? Because I'm terrible at money. I mean, I'll just fess up right here. I'm just not my gift. My gift is 5-year-olds. My gift is kids. My gift is parenting. My gift is not money. So, you just got to realize where your strengths are, So I'm thrilled that I met this fabulous woman, Eileen Joy, and she is every bit of joy. And she is the host of Moms Who Money podcast, a whole podcast about moms and money. So you can learn. She's a certified financial educator. She is founder of Money School for Moms. She helps moms stop stressing about money, like all of this stuff. And wait till you hear about her son. But anyway, we'll get there later. So right now, I'd love you all to welcome Eileen Joy. Eileen, welcome to the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast.
Thank you so much, Celia. I'm so excited about talking about money today, especially because you hate it so much.
Good. So glad. I'm so glad I have found a human. You'd think we were just talking about how old I am. And my daughter turns 42 today. Not that you guys will hear this podcast today, but we were just talking about it. And it's like all these years. I guess it's priorities. I don't know what it is. But anyway, Eileen, tell everybody, if you would, first tell them how they can reach you. I already said you have the Moms Who Money podcast, but, how can they reach out for help? And then if you would, share with us how you got on this track to help. So take it away. I was going to say more, but I couldn't think of any more words. So
I was just going to start talking.
Good.
You're so funny. Okay, so the easiest place to find me is my website. It's momswhomoney.com. And you can find me everywhere right from my website. And I am everywhere. So just hop on over there. You can get the podcast, my socials. You can email me. You can sign up for a consultation call, whatever you need. So how I got into becoming a money coach, I never in a million years ever thought that I was going to end up like this, ever. But, the universe works in amazing ways. And I've learned that the universe works in very deliberate ways if you're paying attention. And it all started because of my divorce. And during my divorce, we never talked about money, ever. We completely avoided it. And that's what ended up, we ended up in bankruptcy. And then at the end of the day, after my divorce was final, I had to sell my house to pay for my divorce. I had run out of money in the middle of my divorce, and my attorney's office was harassing me for money. And they said that they were going to seize everything that I had until I got paid. So at the end of the day, after my divorce, I was left with $347 to my name. I had to get a new job because at the time I was working with my sister-in-law, now my ex-sister-in-law, and the work environment became a little toxic and I needed to get out of there. But thankfully, I found an even better job at the time. And then I also needed to get a brand new car because my car was totaled in an accident that my son and I were in. And we both ended up in the hospital. I'm still dealing with a neck injury from this. And it sounds like a really bad country song. Like anything that could go wrong did go wrong during this time. And it's like, you name it, it probably happened. And so at the end of the day, when my divorce was final, I received this check in the mail from the attorney with all the money that I had left in the world. I opened the envelope, saw the number, and I immediately just started to cry. And I was like, okay, I'm now a single mom. with a 5-year-old. And I have to get a new house, new car, new job, start all over, and I have no money. What in the world am I going to do? Right. And so after I picked myself up off the floor from being in the fetal position and crying and realizing, okay, I got to do something about this. I can't just cry. I I just put one foot in front of the other, and I focused on what is my next step, right? Because that's all you really can focus on, because everything is so overwhelming when you're starting over and you have nothing. So I said, well, we got to find somewhere to live. So and it's just
Step
one
one.
thing. Right, right. And I literally made a list, and I said, these are the things that are really important right now. And I also got support. And the support was my therapist. And then I found a divorce support group and a life coach and all of these things that I needed at the time. And as your life ebbs and flows, you need different things, right? So at the time, that's what I needed. And so I reached out to anyone that I could for help, and I got myself back on my feet. And then it seemed like in a miraculous amount of time that all of a sudden I had a fully funded emergency fund. I had completely repaired my credit, which was destroyed in my divorce, and now it's in the 800s. I was completely debt free. And that car that I had to buy, I got a 6-year car loan on that car. I paid it off 3 years early. And it was just like, it seemed like this miraculous thing, that just happened. But it was because of all of the principles of money, which are very simple, and the world makes them seem so hard. But they are so simple, and any mom can do it, and any kid can do it. And it's just amazing. So while I was miraculously healing myself and financially healing myself, I was teaching my son about money as well. And I said,
So
you know
good.
what, we're going to do this together. And he was really young. Now he's 12. And he has more money now than most adults. And it's amazing. And whenever I tell anyone, they're like, what? Like, how is that
Yeah.
possible? Because it's possible. It's just that you never learned it in school, right? They don't teach this in
And
school.
what a shame that they don't.
Agreed.
What a shame.
Agreed. So over this time and me working with my son, and then I was telling my friends because I was so excited, and so then they were like, Eileen, how did you do this?
Right. What
I
what
want
are
to
you
know.
doing?
Right. And they're all like, show me, show me, show me. So I started showing them what I was doing, which was all these simple little things, and just like also a mindset shift as well of like unlearning what we know and learning what we need to know. Right. And then they started getting the same results. And then they started sending people to me. And I was like, for what? What do you want me to do? Like all of a sudden they were like, we heard you can help, we heard you can help us. And then my son, he was like, Mommy, you need to help moms. You really need to do this. You need to help moms
Such a
because they
smarty.
need you. And I
Right.
was like, you know what? You're right. And that's kind of how money, Moms Who Money was born. And that's why I created Money School for Moms, because there was just such a need for it. And all women deserve a financial education,
Absolutely.
right? And so do our kids, because everyone's lost. And
Right.
it's just so needed.
And I think society for the longest time, was male focused on money. It wasn't like I remember with my aunt that, when she went through a divorce, the first thing she said to us was make sure you have stuff in your name. Because as much money as they had, nothing was in her name. Nothing. And that was like, don't wait till something like this happens. Make sure things are in your name, that you own something.
Back
And
in
I
the
remember my
day,
dad, he had been robbed, I think when he was 18 in New York, right after he got a paycheck. And he had all this cash and he got robbed. And so he taught us never have cash, always have credit cards. And then we all got in trouble with credit cards. So
that's
that didn't
easy to
help us.
do. Very easy to do. But yeah, like times have changed. Times have changed for sure. And now we're a mostly cashless society. Back in the day when we were kids, it was mostly cash, and people didn't really use credit cards very much. And back then, you can smell it. Your hands would literally get dirty, which is where the term dirty money comes from.
Right.
Like literally it was dirty because everyone touched it. And then with COVID, everyone's like, don't touch it.
Don't touch
You're gonna get sick.
Don't touch anything.
Don't touch anything.
Put
Don't
on your
breathe.
gloves.
Right. Right. It's interesting now because only 10% of the world actually uses cash these days.
Really?
Yes, yes. And it mostly fast forwarded because of COVID, but it was already headed in that direction because
Huh.
everything's so digital. And if you really think about it, money's become like air.
Right.
It's more like most people get a direct deposit from their job, or if you have a business, everything comes through a credit card, which is also digital money,
Right.
right? And it's like
Numbers, numbers moving numbers. It's not
right. And
really
it's not even that. Like no one's even paying any attention to the numbers. So it's like it's just something moving around somewhere and you look in your bank account to see if there's any numbers in there.
right.
Is it a
And you
zero?
pray, please let there be some numbers.
Exactly. And it's really interesting because also teaching kids these days about money is a lot more difficult than it was in years past because of that, because it's like nothing.
Right.
And what kids learn about money the same way that we did because they're not learning about it in school. So back in the day, we learned about money from our parents and our environment between the ages of 0 and 7. And that's when we're just conditioned as people, right? As humans. It's like between the ages of 0 and 7, you learn how to be a human in the society wherever you live in the world,
Right.
right? And then you're just taking it all in, right? And we're learning by watching and listening and feeling and experiencing. And specifically with money, no one really sits down with you as like to give you money lessons, right? Like, let's sit down and I'm going to teach you what to do with your money. Like, child, here's what you do with it when you get your allowance, right? And then as a teenager, here's what you do when you get your first job. And then as a young adult, when you get your first quote unquote real job, right? And then as time goes on, you still have no idea what to do with it, so you spend it,
Right.
right? And that's literally how we learn about money. So when you think about it, you, Celia, learned about money from your parents and your environment, right? Same thing with me. And same thing with your kids. And you didn't even realize what was going on because it's just the way it is,
Right.
right? But now that you can't unhear this, this is the most important step of money, is normalizing the talk of money at home. And that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And
It's like
most people,
sex. Nobody wants to talk about sex. No one wants
exactly,
to talk about
exactly.
money.
Sex, money, politics, and religion. Those are the big ones,
I
right?
think people get so embarrassed.
Very
Like
embarrassed.
I remember when my husband had gotten very sick and we got into trouble with our mortgage. And I had always had so much pride in my credit score. And then, of course, we wound up short selling our house and renting a house for a while, which is now the house we own. Easiest move ever. We lived here, we bought it. We never had to move anything. I'm like, this is the best move ever. Everything is here in this house. But I mean, I used to cry about my credit score. And I thought to myself, how ridiculous that I am holding so much value to a number that a bank sticks on me. Like, this is not me. This is not who I am. It's a number. And yet I was so like ashamed of it, because I had so much pride in the high credits. Like, who cares? It's a credit score. And it took me like 2 years to get to that point. But go ahead. What is that called? I'm going in a
Digress.
different direction.
Rabbit trails. No, but that is true. And you're not the only one that feels that way. And it's because of the way that society makes us feel about money. And the reason and the whole entire premise of that is the Joneses, right? Keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
And I know they made a
Competition.
movie about it recently, but essentially I needed to know because I have to research everything. But the Joneses actually started as a comic strip back in 1913.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was in the
So
newspaper.
interesting.
You can actually Google it. You can see the comic strip online. And it was so interesting because you had Mrs. Jones and her neighbor was so jealous. And every day she would look through her window and she would complain to her husband how Miss Jones had everything. And she would berate her husband that he didn't make enough money and then make him go ask his boss for a raise so that she can buy more things. And so, like, literally, this started before the Great Depression.
Isn't that wild? How
Yes,
old that is?
right? And so over time, it's like back then it started with just peering through the window of your neighbor or like gossiping at the salon because that's all people really did, right? But
Right.
now, social media, movies, TV, all the things,
Right.
and it's blown up, right? And if you really think about it, your reality is so different than everybody else's reality because your face is stuck in your phone,
Right.
right? And everyone's algorithm is totally different. So whenever you go online, and also, your phone's listening, so whatever you talk about, that's what you
Always.
see. So you really need to pay attention now. Like now that literally you can't unhear any of this, I'm going to blow your mind today. So I hope to blow your mind
Go
today.
blow my
So
mind. I love it. I
I
love it.
really do. Because like you go online and first you see the things that you look at the most always come to you first,
Right.
right? And you have the ability to change your own reality in real life and online. Okay. So,
Just
and
speak
all,
it.
right. Seriously, because it's all the choices that you make, right? It's all the choices. So it's the choices that you make in reality and the choices that you make when you look online. So when you notice the things that you're thinking and feeling while you're scrolling, or even when you're talking to a friend, and you start to get these feelings of envy or jealousy, or you say it must be nice, and you say these things. This is part of what's called your money story. Okay, so back between the ages of 0 and 7, when you're growing up and you're learning about money, whatever money messages, like money doesn't grow on trees, or people who are rich are mean and greedy, all these things that you hear, they're ingrained now in your subconscious. And you automatically think these things and you don't even know why, right? That's
Right.
why. And it's because everyone else is saying these things too. So depending upon where you fall in whether you're considered lower class, middle class, upper class, a billionaire, whatever it is, you have a different money story and you think and feel differently about money. But there's even people that have a lot of money that still feel ick about it. And it's really fascinating because I have a lot of clients that come to me from all different walks of life and they all feel exactly the same.
Isn't that interesting?
Doesn't matter how much money they have. They're all afraid of it in some way. Or they feel some sense of shame
Right.
and embarrassment and guilt and a lot of anxiety. And the anxiety is always different because it's like, oh, I don't have enough, or I have too much and I don't know what to do with it. I feel like I'm going to lose it all. It's so fascinating, right?
Right.
But we all have these feelings and it all starts from when we're growing up. And so we learn about money from our parents, but our parents learned about money from your grandparents,
Their parents.
right?
Right.
From their parents. And their parents learned about money from their parents, and their money stories started from their parents. And it just keeps going back and back and back and back and back to all of our ancestors, like hundreds of years, right? So all of these money stories from all these different generations of how people viewed money in that particular generation gets fast forwarded till now, but then that shapes your money story.
Right.
But what if you have a partner,
And then you
right?
have their money story.
And they have their money story.
Right.
So their money story and your money story are two totally different things. And so they can either come together and talk nicely, or they can come together and avoid each other, or they can fight, or they could just, it could
Ignore it
turn into
altogether.
so many, yes. And
Right.
and they say that the biggest reason for divorce is money,
Yeah, absolutely.
but it's not the money. It's the communication.
Lack of talking to each other. Right. It's the
Yeah.
avoidance.
It's the avoidance or the fighting
Right.
or the discussing and never agreeing, right? It could be anything. But
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
it's the
absolutely.
communication. It's the good or bad communication.
Right.
And that's why I always say that we need to normalize the talk of money at home, but in a nice way, in a constructive way, in a fun
In a
way.
respectful way,
Exactly.
you know, understanding that it's a difficult conversation. It's like when you attack, I hate the word attack, but when you approach, that's a better word, any difficult conversation,
Hmm.
you have to do it respectfully. You have to understand where the person's coming from. And if it's a child, you have to do it age appropriately.
Correct.
It doesn't mean you don't
Hmm.
do it. It means you do it with intention.
Yes. And also depending upon what age you are and what generation you're from, because everyone views the world completely differently from different generations as well. And like what you were saying when we first started talking about women and men, just in general, back in the day when I was little, it was considered normal for women to stay home and men to be the provider.
Right.
And that all happened around World War II when all the men went over to fight and all the women were working.
Right.
But then the men came home and all the women were forced out of the workplace and into the home. And then all of a sudden, society and no one really even paid any attention to it. All of a sudden, it was normal for women to stay home. And then all the marketing was to women and for women to, have household things and to go to
Right.
the salon and buy pretty things and look pretty and take care of things and make food, right?
I
And just
missed that
cater,
lesson.
right? And
If
and
you ask my
cater.
children, I missed the make food lesson.
TV dinners came around
Yeah.
after that. So
Yes, they
but
did.
right,
They
they
did
did this. I
actually.
know the silver trays, right? So this, but then, but that's how it progressed, right? Then all of a sudden the 1950s happened, right? And everything was like Pleasantville, it seemed,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Wally,
then it
Wally,
morphed
Wally Cleaver. Uh,
exactly
Leave it to
to
Beaver.
Beaver, right? Beaver Cleaver, and Donna Reed and like all these
Right.
shows,
And
right? And
all those
everything
shows.
was like,
The perfect home. The
perfect.
perfect.
Everything was
Perfect.
perfect. Like
And then
it
everybody
was
felt like they had to be perfect.
exactly. And that's where this all started, right? So we started in 1913 with the Joneses, right? With that crazy comic strip that still is going on now, right?
That's wild.
And
I have to
then
look it up after
all of a
this.
sudden, all women needed to be perfect, right? And then we have Les Wexner, what's his name, who started Victoria's Secret, who conjured up the flawless woman, where like you
Right.
literally need to be airbrushed and have
Right.
ribs removed from your body surgically to be perfect, right? I mean, come on,
Yeah.
right?
A little
And
ridiculous.
right.
A lot ridiculous, I should
Right.
say.
So you can see all of these messages in our environment that we are receiving daily, bombarded with.
Are going to
And
affect you.
it affects you
And
deeply.
subconsciously, you're not
Yes.
even going to realize it's
Yes.
affecting you. As parents, we all have those moments. The pressure builds up, the noise gets too much, and before we know it, we're raising our voices higher than we ever intended. But what if there was a better way? Introducing 21 Days to Stop Yelling at Your Kids, a revolutionary program designed to help you communicate with your children without yelling. Imagine a home filled with understanding and respect, where your words have impact without the need to raise your voice. Created through my over 40 years of experience, this course offers you practical, easy to implement strategies that work in real life. You'll learn through interactive lessons, engaging exercises, and a supportive community. No judgments, just guidance. Because being a parent doesn't have to mean you're perfect. It's about growing and it's about becoming intentional. In just 21 days, life will be calmer and more harmonious. What if you don't get the course? Where will you be in 21 days? Still feeling like a bad parent? I encourage you to join the millions of parents that I have helped who have found a new path to communication and connection. Visit quityelling.com to enroll in the 21 Days to Stop Yelling course today. And for our podcast listeners, use the code PODCAST for a 60% discount. Quityelling.com, because love speaks so much louder than yelling. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side.
That's why I constantly say, now you can't unhear this, because I want you to bring it to your conscious, right? Take it away out of your subconscious, bring it conscious, and now we can do something about it. It's going to bother you. It's going to make you angry. It might even make you cry, right? But you need to understand that that's why you're feeling the way you're feeling all the time. And we all have this disease that is up there with COVID. It's really bad. It's called comparisonitis.
Yes.
Right? And it's because of all these things. So that's why everyone overspends, right? We spend more than we make. we think we have to get all these loans so that we can afford things because everyone else has them. I need them too, right? And you have to get the latest and greatest of everything. The latest new, like the new Apple iPhone just came out, right? So everyone's ditching their 15, getting the 16,
Right.
right? And it's
When the
like,
15's perfectly good.
right, exactly. And it's okay. Go ahead, get your 16, but get it for the right reason, right?
Right.
And it's like it's just everyone's just like in this following, right? It's like you're following the leader of what though, right? And everyone's and all it is the American dream. So the American dream, what I coined the American debt trap, is really what it is. It's what it's become. Back in the day, the American dream was like the 1950s where everything was perfect or it
Right.
seemed to be. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, but it seemed to be, right? But it wasn't. It's still not. Things are so much worse. Our world is literally falling apart
Oh,
around
yeah.
us.
I agree.
And I don't even want to go there, but
Yeah, let's not go there. That's
no, we're
probably
not
for a
going
whole nother
to.
conversation.
Yeah, we will take that off the video, but create another one. But literally the money affects everything in your life, right? So the first thing that I do with my clients is go over money story, right? We tackle money story because we have to find out what is your money story in order to find out how to rewrite it. Because that's our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is to get to the root of what is your money story? What do you feel about money? How do you treat money? Do you get it and get rid of it? Or do you hoard it? Are you a big risk taker? Like what do you do with your money? Or are you so
Right.
terrified of it that you're even just afraid to look at it, right? And why? So we tackle that. And then once we know what that is, then we're able to turn that around and be like, okay, well, now that we know what you're doing, what do we want to do with your money? Like, what's
Right.
important to you? And that's why I teach values-based spending because spending is also saving. It just means what's important to you, what do you want your money to do for you? Because that's really what money is. And if you think about it, we are the only species on this planet that uses money, right? Like if you look, I'm looking out my window, I see a squirrel eating an acorn. That was free. He
That was
just picked it
free.
up off the ground, right?
Right.
The birds, they make their own nests, right? They have a place to live. There's bunnies that burrow in the ground, right? They don't have to pay for housing or transportation or anything at the supermarket, right?
That's
And
right.
that's what it's turned into for us. Back in the day, it was all bartering, right? With
Yeah,
cows
there
and
was a lot of
chickens
bar.
and
Exactly.
right?
Right.
And
I'll
now
give
we
you a
have
chicken, you
this,
give me some feed.
right, right. Or you like trade animals for clothing or
Right.
whatever it was. But now it's turned into this insane thing. Like it's literally become crazy.
And I think
And
that's a lot what the banks have infested our minds with that.
it's
And
so true. So the banks are our worst nightmare. And it's really interesting because I save all of the emails that I get from the bank to see the marketing that they put out. And it's so interesting because they use marketing companies that literally dive into neuroscience that know how to use what words to use to get your brain to say, "Oh, I need that."
right.
Right? And it's not just the banks. It's all marketing. And what they want you to think of is that your wants are your needs. So when you see marketing, I want you to I want you to hear this too. Pay attention. When you look at marketing, it will literally say you need this. It will literally say that, right? Even when you're scrolling on Facebook
Right.
or Instagram or whatever, you'll stop and there'll be ads while you're scrolling and it will say, you need this. And then
Right.
you're like, oh, yeah, I do.
Do I need
Okay,
this?
add to
Right.
cart. And then you scroll by and then it comes to your door 2 days later and you're like, what did I get? What
Right.
was that? What did I buy? I forgot, right?
Exactly. It didn't even mean that much.
Right. And then you used your credit card because the bank said you needed one. And
And
then
then
you
so
don't pay
instead
the
of paying
bill in
30, you're
full.
paying 50.
Right. Because now they're charging 30%
Oh, interest rates are
interest.
crazy.
30%. So if you don't pay your bill in full every month, that's 30% extra. So let's say you got it on sale for 20% off. Well, you're still paying 30% of your
Right.
credit
Now you're
card.
paying 10% more than what
Right.
you got it for.
Right. And then if you don't pay it off again next month, it's just going to keep compounding. And so then you're only paying the minimum payment and you're never going to pay it off.
Right.
And you're stuck, which is why I call it the American debt trap.
It's
So
absolutely true.
we don't learn in school what to do with our money when we get it. So we just spend it and then we don't have enough money for a car. We don't have enough money for a house. We don't have enough money for vacations. We don't have enough money for all the things. So we charge it and you get these loans. Even credit cards are loans. It's money you have to pay back. It's not an
Right.
extension to your paycheck. And so many people don't put two and two together. And it's crazy. Then all of a sudden you're $65,000 in debt and you don't know how you got there.
Right.
And so that's what I help you do. I help you take a step back and really think about, well, what's important to you? What's important to your family? What's important to your kids, right? And then
What are your goals?
we set up a
What do you
plan
want
to
to
make
see?
that happen. Hmm.
And I'm guessing without judgment or criticism, because
No.
that's, like when I work with my parenting clients,
Hmm.
they'll always say something like, oh, I actually just had a client yesterday text me or 2 days ago, can we talk? Because I feel so guilty because I think I've made a major mistake. Like she thought this was a life altering mistake. And I always tell clients, there's no judgment here. We all have a backstory. We all come from somewhere and we can't fix what we don't know. And often, like you said, the things that are in our brains were put there by somebody else most of the time. Like
Hmm.
for me, my dad and mom, were lived through the Depression. That's a time when you hoarded every little cent. And as well as my dad did, he had his best friend was part of the stock market, not part of stock, worked for Legg Mason or somebody. I think it was Legg Mason. And he would advise my dad and advise my dad. And my dad would put money in the stock market. And then as soon as the stock market dropped, he's like, I can't do this. And he'd pull it out and he'd lose money because he was, coming from the Depression. You couldn't just lose money. There may not be money the next week. And so that mindset also influenced our mindset. And it's like the generational cycles of dysfunction and abuse that I talk about with parenting. There are certainly generational cycles of dysfunction with money.
For sure. And we need to change these generational patterns. And it starts with us. It
Right.
starts with us. First, we need to learn so that we can teach our kids. And then we want to turn it around so that our kids understand what to do with their money so that they're not stuck in the American debt trap. They're not stuck in a cubicle somewhere saying there has to be a better way. We
Right.
want better for them, right? And we only know what we know. You only
Exactly.
know what you know. And it's not your fault, right? It's no one's fault because no one's teaching you. So one day you're just like, all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, how the heck did I get here? It's not your fault. It wasn't my fault that I lost everything.
Right.
I had to learn that too. Like I felt it was all my fault. I felt like everything was all, I took it all on my
Yeah.
shoulders. All of it.
Right.
I had so much therapy, right?
Somehow I could have changed all this.
Exactly.
Somehow, you
Right.
know, but sometimes things happen to open up other doors of greatness. And for
Exactly.
you, look how it panned out. If you hadn't gone through that marriage, well, first of all, and I say this to everybody that has a marriage that results in wonderful children. If you hadn't
Hmm.
had that relationship, you wouldn't have the wonderful child you have right now. So
Hmm.
totally worth it.
I say that all the time.
But I know you have to
Yeah.
be grateful.
Yeah, I am.
I mean, I'm always grateful to my ex-husband because we made two really awesome children.
Hmm.
And but if all of that hadn't happened, you wouldn't be on the path you are. If it hadn't happened with me and I hadn't gotten remarried, I was just talking to my daughter about this the other day. She now has my son and daughter now have five siblings, two from my ex's wife and three from my husband. And she was talking about how it like saved her life, like going through just the difficulty of like seventh grade and all of that. And she met these brothers of hers. And she said they like saved my life. It was like the best thing ever happened. And that wouldn't have happened. So there's always benefits. You have to
Hmm.
see the brightness in something. You have to see, and you have to see it every day. And for money, which sometimes can be so dark for people, it's also a way to get somewhere. Like I always saw people rich as being like evil. Like not evil, but not yeah, I have family members that are very, very rich. And I think all they focus on is money. And they don't do anything with their children and it's a lot of control and so that's how I view it. Well, if you're gonna be rich, and that's not what that's not my thing. So you're so right. There's so many things that are in our head battling, and then we all take it as guilt.
Yes.
Well, I screwed up.
I have a client right now that I'm working with somewhat of a similar situation where her parents are very wealthy. And whenever she, as a child, said, Mommy, can I have or Daddy, can I have the fill in the blank? They would say, No, you can't have that. And then, like, she literally told me that she had said something, I want that stuffed animal or whatever it was. And her father said no. And then the next day he went out and bought a boat. And it was like, really?
All I
And
wanted was this little stuffed animal.
right. So she kind of grew up with like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
And she internalized all of that of like, my daddy doesn't love me and
Exactly.
all of these things. This all created from her money story from her childhood. And so she still like makes excuses to herself as to why she buys things for herself and all of this, because, she wants to feel
Right.
like
She
she means
rationalizes
something.
it.
Right.
And,
And
it's
so
like, well, my father bought a boat instead of buying me the bunny,
right,
which was stuffed, which was
right, which was like
$15.
$5. Right.
And
And so
instead he
she,
bought a $250,000 boat or what.
exactly,
I just
exactly.
wanted a little bunny. Well, I'm going to go buy
Yeah.
my bunny. And
Yeah.
yeah, and you
Yeah.
rationalize things like that
You do.
because
You do.
it somehow soothes the hurt.
It's your brain's way of trying to make you feel better and make you
Right.
feel safe and secure. But what I teach is getting to the root of that, right? It's most people don't feel like they can be successful with money because they have all these feelings, right? You have so many feelings. And what you were saying about the people who are rich or evil or whatever. But my son, he literally said something like that to me one day. We were talking, this was years ago. We were in the store talking about money. I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I remember him saying, Mommy, people who are rich are mean and greedy, and I don't want to be rich because I'm kind and generous. And I looked at him and I said, Where did you hear that? I said, I never said anything like that. Where did you hear that? And he said he heard it on a cartoon.
Huh.
So then,
It's
of course, I was
everywhere.
like, What cartoon? And so
Right.
it was like then we had this whole conversation that turned into a beautiful conversation. And I said, Look, however you are as a person is how you treat your money. So you just told me you're kind and generous, and you already donate money because you are kind and generous, and you share money with all of these charities that you care about, right? He said, Yeah. I said, So why would that change if you had more money? I said, Wouldn't it be amazing if you had more money? You could share even more of it. And he said, That's great.
Right. Right.
And I said, If you're a jerk, all the time, you
You're a
normally will
jerk.
be a jerk with your money.
Right. Doesn't
And if
matter if you're
you're
rich,
really
you're poor, you're
right,
going to be a
it's
jerk.
just who you are and your character as you are as a human, it just gets intensified the more money that you have. So a lot of times, you can focus on that negative and see that. But if you look for the positive, like look for all the people that use their money for good. I said, why don't we go do that? Let's go look online. And we did. And I said, whatever you look for, you find. So I said, if the more you focus on the negative, you will find more doom and gloom every day. I said, but if
Exactly.
you focus on being 1% better every single day than the day you were before, and you look for the positive and the joy and the happiness and all of these things that you want, and you moved in that direction, you will be able to find more of it, and then you will become a magnet for it, and it will just become around you. And so that's how we live. That's how we are all the time. And it's just awesome because I know that at least just for us and the clients that I'm helping and their families, like I'm helping them to do this too, and to understand that the messages that we hear are implanted on purpose. They're marketing messages.
Yeah.
There's the messages also to make you feel like you're not good with money so that you have to hire someone to do it for you. But there are no people out there that pay your bills for you. There's no one out there you can give them your paycheck and they'll just take care of it. No
Right.
one's going to do that, right? The only people that are out there are financial that take your money and invest it for you, but they won't even give you the time of day unless you have at least bare minimum $250,000 to give them,
Yeah.
because they won't get any commission if you don't. So what I do is I teach you what to do when you get paid, whether you have a business, whether you have a job, whatever it is. What do you do with your money? Where does it go? What do you do with it? How can you be successful with your money so that you can actually retire someday, right?
Right.
It's like everyone is so afraid they're going to have to work until the day they die because they have no money. Everyone's like, I should be so much further along than I am right now. I don't know why. I just feel so bad all the time. I'm so stressed out about money because I just can't get ahead,
Right.
right?
And you
But
absorb
it's
all that guilt for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And then you make yourself feel so shameful. And then you don't want to talk about it because you're embarrassed. But
Right.
meanwhile, everyone else feels the exact same way. Everyone else is
Right.
trying
And you
to,
think you're the only one.
right. But
There's a
because no
lot of
one talks
people.
about it, that's why. Like no one's talking about it. So everyone's internalizing it and feeling like crap every single day.
Yeah. So true.
And then your
So
kids are
true.
going to feel that way too.
Right. And if you're ashamed, they're going to be ashamed. And then they grow up thinking, oh, well, look at this kid. He gets this, gets this. I don't get this.
Right.
What's wrong with
Right.
my parents? What's wrong with my family? I'm a loser and
Right.
I'm going to stay a loser my whole life, and then
Right.
you label yourself.
So one tip that I would give parents for helping their kids to get started, and it doesn't matter what age they are. You could even start kids as baby. Okay, kids as babies have money things around, right? Have the toys in the playroom when they're toddlers. Get the grocery cart, the cash register, the play food, the play kitchen. You could play restaurant, you can play supermarket, all these things, right? Start playing books, tons of money books, money games, all these things. Just immerse the kids and let it be normal. Play with them, teach them how to count back change, all these things, right? Just money. And then as they get older, let them be in the conversation. Show them your paycheck. You can tell them that not to tell their friends, right? They say this is just for us to know. Don't, that you don't give this for show and tell at school, but
Right.
but let them know this is how much money I make. This is my paycheck. This is gross. This is net. This is,
This
deductions.
is
Like
what
teach them.
electricity costs. This is what water
Exactly.
costs. This is
Teach them
what,
how to
yeah,
run the household,
right.
right?
Absolutely.
Right. And like any time that I do anything, I have my son with me and I show him. Like this is the name of the electric company that we have, like this is how much the bill is. Help me with this, right? And anytime I get a new credit expired and I have to update my new one, I have him do it for me, right? And I let him in the conversation. I let him invest his
And it
own
becomes
money,
natural.
right? And he does all this from his allowance. And so anytime he wants something, he buys it himself. He never has to say, Mommy, can I have the bunny? Right?
Right.
Mommy,
Right.
can I have the Legos? Mommy, can I have the Pokemon cards? He buys them, he buys them himself. And
And he
he,
is 12 years old.
he's 12 and he's
Yeah.
been
I
doing
wanted
this
people to
since he
know that.
was,
He's
yeah,
12 years old.
he's been doing this for years. And he never says, Mommy, can I have that? Instead, he says, Mommy, how much is that? Do I have enough? If not, I'll save for it. Right. And so I've been teaching him how to think smart about money in a way where he's going to live with the money that he has. And he knows that I put this much money in my savings. I put this much money in my investments. I give this much money to the charities that I care about. And then I have this left over for the spending. And for now, it's on Pokemon cards and other things, right? But
Right.
as he gets older, that will change. And he knows that. And we talk about it all the time. But these are things
Yeah. I
that you
try to
can do with your
encourage parents
kids.
on exactly that. When you give
Yeah,
allowance, you give it to learn money management.
correct.
Like, I don't think allowance should be tied to household responsibilities, because
No,
household responsibilities are part of living in a household. You live in the home, you share that home. I don't care if you're 1.5 years old, you have certain responsibilities because we were born thinking the world revolves around us. Our first community is our family.
correct.
And you have
Agreed.
certain responsibilities to that, regardless,
Mhm.
oh, you're going to get paid for this.
No. No, you live in this house, you help with the chores. You help,
Right.
you clean up after yourself, go wash your dish. Like I remember for my son's 10th birthday, I gave him dishwashing as a gift. So he on his 10-year-old, he turned 10, and I said, "This is the sponge. This is the dishwashing detergent. This is how you put it on the sponge. This is how you wash the dish," right? Then when he turned 11, I gave him, "This is how you use the washing machine." And I have on the wall the instructions that I wrote out, turn machine on, and I drew a picture of the power
Right.
button.
Right.
And
Exactly.
it's
So they
still on the
know.
wall.
So they're
Yeah.
not always asking you.
Right. And so he does
Exactly.
his laundry. He cleans up after
Good
himself. He
mommy.
vacuums and like he does the things, but he knows he's going to get his allowance regardless.
Because that's different.
It's different.
That's to teach money management.
Yes. They all kids need to know what to do
All
with
kids
their
do.
money.
They do.
So, yeah, by the time that they graduate college, they're not going to be part of that debt trap.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah. He's
it's
already
so
saving
important.
for to buy a car. He's saving to pay for college, and he's not going to have to worry about student loans. And,
So
we're
great.
changing the paradigm. We have to
Right.
change the paradigm for our kids.
Right. Here you were at a divorce, broke. That
Hmm.
won't happen with your son.
No. And I'm on track
You
to
took
retire
action.
early, which is amazing. Like I
Great.
never, like I literally thought that I was just going to be stuck working till the day I die. And now I'm on track to retire early.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes. And so can
And you could even
everybody.
keep doing this because you love this,
Exactly.
you know?
But retirement, that's a whole other conversation, Celia.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure that'll
retirement
be
in a
another
nutshell.
podcast, guys. We'll do another podcast because,
Yeah.
you know, Eileen slowly becoming my favorite human. So we're very glad we met each other. We blend.
We do. We do.
But we'll do another podcast on retirement and stuff like that. But this has just been so helpful and so much reality that so many of us don't want to face.
Yeah.
And the more you hear about it, the more it becomes normal. The more you talk about it, the more it becomes normal. The
Yeah.
more you sit down as a family and, you know, people, parents will come to me that work with me and they'll be like, how do I get my kids to turn off the lights all the time? And the whole house is lit up. And I tell them, and it like goes in one ear and out the other and stuff. And I always say, if you ever sit down with your child and tell them the costs of running a home, number one, they should know. Number two, it's good information. So as they get older and at one point of time they have their own place, they need to know costs. What do you pay? TV's not free anymore. It's kind of ridiculously expensive. And there are just these huge expenses that used to be free, no longer are free, and in fact have really tripled in cost. And you know, you have to teach them. They don't know. They're not going to just figure it out. I always say, like with the sex talk, the
Hmm.
talks,
Hmm.
chapter 40 in my book, having difficult conversations with your kids. But I always say, like, if you don't teach them something that's difficult to talk about and you don't give your own perspective and incorporate your own values, Google will. Who do you want them to learn from?
Hmm.
And if you feel challenged in an area like money, then you do the same. Go find a way to learn more. You work with somebody, Eileen, preferably, because see how brilliant she is. You work with Eileen, you work with someone you connect to. If you're a parent, you work with me. If you don't connect with me, you work with somebody. Find help because your life will improve not just a little, tremendously, and usually in a short amount of time.
Yeah. Working with someone usually helps to quantum leap your results.
Yes, that's a good description.
It will.
Exactly.
It will. And speaking with your kids, it's not like sitting them down and lecturing them. It's nurturing your relationship with them. And the conversation is only difficult to you, not to them.
Right. That's a great point.
It's
Exactly.
the same thing with money. Like I say this all the time. I'll leave you with this. It's only difficult to you because you're the one that has the feelings about it. They don't. They want to learn, right?
It's
They
great.
want to
Great
learn.
point.
And it's only hard for you. And you got to get over yourself, right? It's like
Right.
you
And
really do.
once you
And
do,
it's amazing.
right.
Yeah.
Once you tell somebody, once you talk
Hmm.
to someone you trust and feel comfortable with, it's out there.
And be honest. You have to
Right.
say, like, if it's your spouse, partner, child, whatever, you can say, you know what, look, I'm really uncomfortable talking about this, but we need to start talking about it.
Yeah.
And you talk about it weekly or daily or however, like you
But it's
start
like I
out
help people
just,
with family meetings. Have that
yes, money
15, 20
dates.
minute family connection meeting,
Same.
same time
Hmm.
every week. Sunday at
Yep.
1 o'clock, we're going to have our little family talk.
Yeah. And throw money into the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Make it a topic, make it new
Yeah.
business. I have a whole agenda.
Hmm.
If you guys want family meeting agenda, go to my Etsy store, which I just opened, Pumped Up Parenting. And the family meeting is in there, I think. And if it's not,
Well, it will be by the
message
time
me.
this airs.
Yeah, it will be by the time. That's good because
So
I
get on
think
that right now.
we just opened it and there's like 4 things in it. But I will tell you, everything's priced at $5, so it's affordable. Get those 4 things. They're game changers. They are literal game changers. That's why I put those 4 in first. So get them and add money into the conversation. The more you talk about something, the more you don't ignore it, the more comfortable you feel about it. Eileen, endlessly helpful. I mean, and you even threw in the last piece of advice for parents. So talk about it, guys. Check out Moms Who Money podcast. Think how great you felt after this conversation. Think how great you feel if you just start listening to it on a regular basis. Set your alarm, listen to it. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. And you will be, instead of all those negative messages that have crept into your brain and have been left there from childhood, you will start hearing a better message and your subconscious mind will start believing what you're hearing. So change it up, change your story, be willing to change your future, change your kids' future. You'll be so proud of yourself. You'll be so proud of yourself just to have a conversation.
It's
Do it.
true.
Take the
It's
step.
true.
We
I would
believe in
love
you.
to give your listeners a gift,
Oh, yes. We
if
love
that's
gifts.
okay.
A gift,
Okay.
the listeners. We're getting a gift.
I have
I'll
a
put it.
guide. It's called 6 Steps to Money Smart Kids.
Oh, I love that. Six
And you
steps
can
to
find that at
money.
my website, momswhomoney.com/kids.
Okay. And we'll put that in the show notes.
Okay.
So super helpful. Get it. It's free. For free. Free.
Exactly.
Don't have to
We
pay
like
anything.
free.
We like free. Free is our friend. We don't have to pay anything for it. And without even talking to someone, without even feeling embarrassed and feeling like you're going to be judged, you can just go on to momswhomoney.com, get this. Nobody even has to know you did. And all of a sudden now you're like the leading authority of helping kids learn about money. Is that great? So go for it,
But
my friends.
it's
Go for
always
it.
a safe space. There will never be any judgment. I've been there. I get it.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. And I've been there, so feel free to
Yeah.
reach out to me.
Never.
Not that I'm going to help you. I'll help you with parenting and kids.
We'll tag team you.
Eileen will help you with money. Here's the duo, the dynamic duo. Okay. Eileen, I love you. Thank you
Be
for
right
being
back.
here. I'm so glad we know each other now.
Same.
And all of you, Eileen and I are very grateful for you taking time out of your very busy schedules and hanging out with us. We're very grateful for that. And if this helped you, please share it out and leave us a comment so that we know it helped you. And, what you can even leave a comment or send me a message on what you would like to know more about. What can you do a podcast with Eileen on? Whatever we talked about, retirement, school, saving for that, whatever. Leave us a message, leave us a comment, how much you loved it, what you'd like to hear more of, because Eileen will be back. She'll be back.
I promise I will.
All right, you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for spending your time. As always, I wish you days filled with peace, love, tons of laughter. Start laughing about money. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny how we are about money. That in itself is pretty funny. So laugh about it because laughter is the best medicine and it will keep you from crying. Okay, so there's the message for today. And I will see you on the next episode of the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Pumped Up Parenting Podcast. If this episode was helpful to you, please share it with a friend and leave us a review that will help others. Wonder why kids don't come with a manual? Well, wonder no more, because I wrote you one, and it's just won a wonderful Mom's Choice Award. Go to celiasbooks.com and buy your copy of Raising Happy Toddlers, as well as my children's books. I appreciate you being part of my mission to help 10 million parents stop yelling at their kids. Please be intentional and hug on those kids of yours. See you at the next episode.